Just tell me a little bit more.
Um, I open my OneNote and I can't see where I can, view the immersive reader. Is it under home, insert?
So are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
All right. So I'm pulling up my OneNote here. And mine's kind of messy. We'll pull open, let's see here. Stephen, we'll pull open our education transformation framework here. So when you open up a OneNote,
Mm-hmm.
at the very top you have, and I'm in a browser. So when you click on view, you see my tab up there? It's Mail, Home, Insert, Draw, View. Click on View, and then right underneath it, do you see Immersive Reader?
Okay, wait. So I'm going to open mine. So it's under View.
So go under View, and then right underneath is Immersive Reader.
Yes, thank you. I see it.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
It is fantastic, and like I said, I love it. If you are one who has not used Immersive Reader or OneNote before, think of OneNote kind of like a Google file folder where you have multiple documents in it. And so it's like a folder, and you'll see at the tab, there's just different sections, and you can make them collaborative in nature. You can draw on them. You can add videos. You can add links, all of those types of things. But the benefit is it has underneath the view option Immersive Reader, and it's all free. It's all online. It's cloud-based, so you can use it, especially when you differentiate content. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, so heading back there, again, Immersive Reader is one of my favorites, and that's where you find it in the OneNote notebook. It's right underneath the View section, and when you click on Immersive Reader, the same sort of things that you saw earlier pops up. It immediately goes to text-to-speech, and you can change that so you can speed it up.
Thank you for spending the last 2 days with us learning about.
You can change it to male to female voice. So there's lots of customization based on student need in there. But again, I think it's fabulous because of all the different options. It allows users to provide and scaffold not only for their students, but also for educators. So hands down, one of my favorite as a literacy teacher. So differentiation of process, jumping right in here. Now, this is one that is a little bit different for people to understand, but let me explain it this way. So oftentimes we talk about, are there different learning types? And you'll see things online that said, the research just came out. There's definitely not any research that supports learning types. That's all a fallacy. Okay, the debate is not if there are different learning types. The focus is on when you differentiate process, you're allowing students to consume information in multiple ways. So for instance, sometimes I like to visually see it. Sometimes I want it to be demonstrated. Sometimes I want to read it. Sometimes I want to view it through a video. So there's multiple ways in which you can consume information, and that is how you differentiate process. So it's not about what learning style is a student. Let's focus on a learning style. It's having multiple ways to access information and gain understanding, whether it's through a video, it's through an infographic, it's through regular text, it's through audio and hearing it, it's through modeling, it's through gradual release, whatever it may be, but it's talking about there's different ways to process information. So that is what differentiation of process is all about. So learning profile. And when you look at it, really the great challenge of schools is providing equity of access to excellence. And how can we provide all this access, not only in remote learning as we saw currently, but also access to content. If you think about it, I was a high school teacher, and I know that there's some in the chat. There's not differentiated textbooks at the high school level. It comes in one. It's typically on grade level. It's in one form, and that's what you get. So how can you differentiate that and make it equitable for all students to meet their needs? And it causes a great imbalance when you look at this in the classroom, because we have for so long had the traditional factory style model of education, and what we have realized is one size does not fit all. So even though that they're the same age, it doesn't work for everyone. And I love that quote at the bottom where it says, swallows some learners, pinches others, and fails to inspire most. And that's what Tomlinson talks about. And what it results in is remedial classes tend to keep remedial learners remedial. And so while I'm not talking about small groups in the classroom, when you ability group or track students, you are keeping remedial students remedial. There is very little research out there to support tracking students or ability grouping students. The only research out there is those that are talented and gifted. They show a little bit more gain if you group all of those kids together, but otherwise, combining classes where there's lots of learner differences and motivations and interests is the best way to increase student achievement for everyone. So when you have remedial classes, you keep those students remedial. Why? Because teachers slow down, expectations are not up at a high level. So there's lots of research out there that shows uh, um, uh, a little bit of gain in talented and gifted when you ability tracked, but not when you ability tracked the rest of the class. So keeping remedial students remedial is one thing that I want to caution you about. And it's something that happens so frequently. So how can you differentiate process? And remember, this is how students consume the information. Well, gamification. I know I told you at the beginning that I have a high school student, and I'm sure some of you can remember times in your class, or maybe even currently, where students have been online all day gaming. I think right now my son is playing Fortnite and maybe Call of Duty or something like that. But what they're creating there is called an affinity space, and that's what these gamified learning platforms are trying to do. So affinity spaces provides a place where people with common interests can come together and learn together and create and share. And they're very difficult to create in the classroom because affinity spaces and these gaming platforms are typically by choice, where classrooms there are forced, and I'm putting that in air quotes, to be in that classroom, but you can use those components to make it more similar to those affinity spaces that they spend all of their times currently on, like Fortnite. So here are a few of my favorites. Breakout EDU, of course, have to give a shout out to that group. Adam Bello is one of Stephen's very best friends, and he does great things with that group. Minecraft EDU, that is Microsoft, and my kids loved using Minecraft in the classroom to demonstrate their understanding in different content areas. Duolingo has a gamified version platform, Classcraft, and Class Badges. So those are different ways and different platforms to gamify your classroom. But the thing to keep in mind is there are things you can do to make your classroom more gamified, but to truly have an affinity space like they find online for Fortnite is not possible. So we're trying to infuse those different things in there. All right, so I'm gonna skip that one because our time is running out. The other differentiating and process talks about assistive technology. Now, I, of course, am a huge fan of Immersive Reader. Along with that, there is Microsoft Accessibility website. So if you have not been to that yet, make sure you check that out. And I'm not a assisted technology expert. I know enough to be dangerous. I've worked with some great assistive technologists in the past, and I know the goal for assistive technology is to provide students not only the skills and the tools, but to be able to do those things independently. So although they love to hear the teacher's or their parents' voice, when they are adults and when they are on their own, they will use computer voice more frequently than a human voice. So allowing them to know there's options even on their phone for text to speech, how to access those accessibility ability features within a web browser on their device. All of these things are essential, and they help students differentiate process so they're able to access and understand and learn the information. So check out Microsoft Accessibility if you have not. Microsoft Translator, this is another one. And I know I told Stephen I wasn't going to put him on the spot, but I'm going to put him on the spot here because he actually used this over in France. So Stephen, tell everyone what Microsoft Translator is.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
So Translator is an app that you can put on your mobile device. And if anybody's ever seen the show Star Trek, it's just like a communicator from that show. So I can choose my language and the other talker's language, and it will automatically either discern what they're saying and put it in text on my screen. Or I was in the back of a cab and was able to just speak into my phone, and the phone automatically translated, what I needed from the driver without having to do anything. It's also great because you can set up rooms. So if you go to the web-based version, you can set up a room. So imagine you're doing a presentation for all your parents. Like, I'm getting ready to have a sixth grader, so we bring in parents. They can then go to a website on their phone, put in some headphones, and put in the code for the room, choose the language they want it converted into, and they will have that automatic personalized language translation directly for them on their device. There is no reason why every front office in every school should not have that on a device to better communicate with their parents and their communities.
That's right. So I hate to pull you in there, Stephen, but I know that you have used it, and is one that I have not used with another group of people before, but it is highly effective. It has better translation than Google Translator currently, and it is one where you can set up different rooms with languages, and not only can you pre-select the language, but you can also then choose different languages in there. So it definitely makes things more accessible when you're thinking about differentiating process and how students and as Stephen just said, how parents and caregivers can access information and also learning. So definitely check that out if you have not. So this is tons of assistive technology that I have gathered throughout the years. And again, this is all going to be on our website for you to look at and to link. Common Lit is one of my very favorites. They have a lot of accessibility, assistive content, ways for kids to access information and work on their literacy skills. Rewordify, that is another one where you can take something that is difficult to understand or read, put it in Rewordify, and it changes the reading level or lexile level, so it's more approachable. But I will tell you, typically when you do that, it makes the text longer. So a lot of kids don't like it because then it makes it longer because it is trying to explain that passage. So there's lots of different assistive technologies on there. And Marie asked, what website is that going to be on? So I'm going to put later not only this PowerPoint, but also a document on our website. It's web20classroom.com. So you'll see that there, and you can download it. And we just ask for you to share it, let us know how it went, and if we have anything to add, and all of those types of things. So it is free to use. All right. Differentiation of process. The last one we're going to talk about is strategy number 3, and this is centers. So what current brain research tells us is intelligence is variable, the brain is malleable, the brain hungers for meaning, and humans learn best with moderate challenge. So for a time, people thought you were born with the amount of intelligence and brain proudness that you would have for the rest of your life. No, we have learned that through brain research that your brain and your intelligence is one that continues to grow throughout your lifetime. And humans learn best when there is a moderate challenge. So grouping again, and this is not ability tracking, and this is not where you keep kids in a group the whole semester long. Small groups, when I'm talking about it, is they're very fluid and kids move in and out, maybe every 2 weeks based on needs. But typically what you see is some sort of station rotation. Now, this is perfect, not only for the classroom where you could have something like this either in a virtual space or up on the board where kids know, all right, they're doing individual, they're doing small group partner read, they're doing some fluency practice over here. Whatever skill you're working on, now this is one that you could use. Math, science, I just gave you a literacy one. But the thing to keep in mind for stations is it's best to keep it all related to a specific topic or concept. And it is best for students to have routines on things that they will do, because when there are routines, it's more student-centered. Students don't have to wait for the teacher to give them directions. They know exactly what to do and how to progress on their own. So that's why routines are nice, especially in those younger grades. So you might have, let's say we're talking about something in science, the same sort of concept, a hypothesis, and you might have a hypothesis in text, and you might have a video of how to create a hypothesis, or you might have a simulation or a demonstration, but they all relate to that concept. So when you think about stations and grouping kids, it is they're moving around, and some of it may be with you, or some of it may be with a partner, but it's a way for them to target multiple ways to process information over the same sort of thing. Elementary people read this and totally understand it. Middle school, high school people are a little confused at first, but just think of different areas in the room where kids are working on the same sort of thing. I like differentiation and process where you use choice boards. So this is great not only in a traditional classroom, but also a remote classroom. This is a typical choice board. And what this allows students to do is there's 3 different levels: learning, digging deeper and applying. So this is a science example. It's over the periodic table. It's all hyperlinked. So you could do this on a Google Doc. You could do this on a OneNote, or you can link something on a Wakelet. It doesn't matter where you decide to do this, but it gives kids the options of different ways to process the information through learning. So they could watch a music video on YouTube. They could do an interactive Google Draw. They could do a simulation. So there's multiple ways for kids to access and process information. You'll see the second level is one where they dig deeper, and then the third level is where they apply it. So we have PhET simulation. That's a great online resource for our science and math lovers. If you have not checked that out, PhET, it offers those virtual simulations, arranged lab time with the teacher, or maybe it's another digital resource. In this case, it was the Mad Scientist mixing game. So digital choice boards provide choice for students not only to process information, but then dig into it deeper and apply their understanding in multiple ways. And these sort of choice boards, there is a blank version as well in this slide deck, so you can use this and use it in your own classroom. So I'm going to pause for a second before we go into product. Let's see here. For some reason there we go. Any questions about differentiating process? People have used that. All right, so going to end up here. And then I'll take any questions for a few minutes because my son does have a baseball game today. Yes, go comments. So differentiating process. We've talked about how to differentiate assessment to understand where kids are at, what they know, what they're on the cusp of grasping, and where to direct your instruction. We talked about differentiating of content and how you can work on readiness and also motivation. We talked about differentiating process, and that's how kids learn and understand information. And the last one is differentiating product. So differentiating product deals with how do kids take what they know and demonstrate their understanding. So differentiating product allows kids choice. It's a wide variety of assessment. Um, they can work alone and in groups. But it's a way for, like I said, for them to take what they know and to differentiate and demonstrate their understanding. So typical ones that we've seen before, blogs. That would be a very typical way to differentiate the understanding. Maybe it's a visual, maybe it's a written assignment. When you add it to a blog or something where you can share it a link, it boosts it up a level because then the audience moves from the traditional lone teacher to a global audience. Podcasts. It's kind of the golden age of podcasts. You're seeing a reemergence of podcasts throughout. We have one, Go Synth. It is one for you to check out later on this, but podcasts is another way for kids to demonstrate their understanding. ThingLink, that's a fantastic way for kids if they have a lot of examples of things, like maybe a multi-genre paper or something like that. They could create a ThingLink. And Live Binders, that's another way for them to curate a whole bunch of ways that they've demonstrated their understanding. Maybe it's a writing portfolio or whatnot, but Live Binder is another one that has been around forever and is seen as a traditional one. But you can go further. So I love Sway, and I love Sway for the simple fact that you can easily embed audio. And I think audio is extremely important, especially for our youngest learners, to demonstrate their understanding. Yes, you can do that with different platforms if you app smash and hack and all those types of things, but you can easily do it on Sway, and it is perfect alternative for a regular essay. They could create a Sway, so I like Sway. Go Synth, this is the one that I was telling you about. Go Synth is created by the people of Swivel, and it is free. It is micro podcasting. So think of it like Twitter, where you can have threaded discussions in a podcast form. So you could pose a question as a teacher, and kids could demonstrate their understanding through audio on a threaded discussion through Go Synth. So that's one to check out. Of course, Flipgrid. There's so many different things you can do with Flipgrid, endless possibilities. So not only can they share video, but they can comment on each other. You can use it as a progression over time. You can link in, you can have different links. You can upload PDFs. So there's different ways to demonstrate understanding, and you could use it all within Flipgrid. Book Creator, that's another one. It started out as an Apple preference product, but has now moved cloud-based and moved into not only the Google world, but also Microsoft world as well. So Book Creator is one that you can use across devices and on the cloud, and it allows you to have a multimedia book where kids can add voice, kind of like a OneNote, where they can add text, they can share it, visuals. So lots you can do with Book Creator. That is one to check out. And Instagram and Flipgrid. We know where kids are at. Or, sorry, not Flipgrid, Snapchat. We know kids are at on Instagram, Snapchat, and we should probably add TikTok to this one. But how can they use that in a semi-permanent way to demonstrate their understanding and share with a broader audience? So I always like to think creatively. There's great things you can do with vocabulary. I know there's a huge movement on TikTok for teachers using TikTok in the classroom. There's lots of great ways that you can use those contemporary modes of communication for kids to demonstrate their understanding. Seesaw, this is one loved by our youngest, our teachers that support our youngest learners, because it has so many things that I would say probably mimics Microsoft Teams. It has a feed. You can add different people to it, so you could pull in parents if you want them to see it. Has individual pages where people can upload examples and demonstrations of their own work. So lots of flexibility in Seesaw, and it's very user friendly, especially for our youngest grades. Tons of things you can do for that. Perfect for remote learning. So again, differentiation, we talked about assessment quickly, we talked about content, we talked about process, we talked about product. You can't do everything at once. Don't worry about trying to differentiate in all those areas. Probably the easiest one, the easiest two, I would say, is assessment. There's so many ways to assess kids to know where they're at in their learning, so you can move from there. And the other one, I would say, is product. When you give them choice to demonstrate their understanding, sky's the limit of things that they will create and share. So providing that choice. I love ending with this quote from Hattie Fisher and Fry. Every student deserves a great teacher, not by chance, but by design. So differentiation definitely should take place in physical classroom, but also the virtual classroom. I put the website on here right now. I know Stephen has dropped that in there. This slide deck will be on there along with um, a list of different tools that you could explore. I know some people said, "What was that middle tool?" So all of that stuff is on there. And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go back to the chat to see if there's any questions. So if there is, make sure that you can voice in there. So I'll open up for voice questions for a few minutes. Oh, Patsy, go ahead. Let's talk about this one.
Hello. So I was just wondering, how do you keep the children moving within their stations online within the time frame? Because I noticed you spend 10 minutes with each group, but how do they do that online? In person, it's always easier, but like, how do you do it online?
Right, so much easier. So there's a couple of things, and I know, I don't know if it's been released yet or not. Maybe Stephen can look real quick, but I do know Microsoft Teams. I know Google starting it, and also Zoom has something called breakout rooms. So that would definitely help. When you use a breakout room, you're able to put kids into them. They can work, and then you can bop into them, almost like physically bopping into different spaces or different rooms. But then you can also force them all back together. So that definitely helps with time management. Look for those groups or breakout rooms on the different platforms. I love doing that. For the simple reason, like I said, you can put them in groups. You can set the time as the host of the video conference. You can pop into those different groups to see how they're doing, and then also you can pull them back all together. That's one thing. The other thing is, I think, since some students will be doing things asynchronously, your probably best bet is to do things that are content based, as far as completing this task before moving on to the next one. Because I agree, I think it's extremely hard when you think about doing it virtually, especially asynchronously, to keep kids moving along. So maybe it is more of like a bingo board instead of one of those station rotations. And maybe they, I'm not quite sure, Patsy, how they're doing it where you are, but in Iowa, I know my son and my daughter did it differently. My son had classes Monday and Wednesday and Friday. Tuesday, Thursday was makeup work, meet with teachers, whatnot. My daughter had it Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest of the week was on their own. So if I was trying to work through different rotations and meet with small groups and work with kids on specific skills, I would maybe set up like a choice board or a bingo board at the beginning, and then trying to have them reach different things before the end of the week. So maybe giving them instead of a time product.
Okay.
I don't know. What did you try different things?
Well, We did synchronous learning instead, but we did want to try that, but we just weren't sure how that would work because of course we had internet problems and then unfamiliarity with devices,
Of
all
course.
kinds of things. So we're trying to just see how we can do it for the next school year. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But thank
those are
you. Thank
interesting.
you.
You're
I
welcome.
like
You're welcome. Lisa, you have a question? Let's see here. Lisa
Yes,
said,
I do. Hey, Shaelynn, can you
"Hi,
hear me?
how are you?"
How are you, friends?
Hi,
So it's so beautiful to see you present. You have so much to offer, so much
Oh,
talent, so many great resources. Thank you so much. And let me read my volume. I'm sorry. So I have a question. As a school board member in my district, I'm really working on transforming the way we use tech, and I ran on that platform of really taking the tech we have and moving forward. And so we're a Google Classroom district. Unfortunately, we have many teachers who don't know how to use Google Classroom, and they were forced to have to learn how to use Google Classroom in March when we went full distance learning here in Los Angeles County. But as I've been attending some of these Microsoft events, I see the power of the differentiation, if you will, of using different
right?
tools.
Immersive
Right?
reading alone.
Yes, we know this. So my question is, and I asked the tech rabbi yesterday too, and he answered me this point. But if you're already a Google Classroom district, if we want to access some of these tools, is this a district purchase? Is it a school by school? Is it a teacher by teacher? Because I feel like my teachers, we have 8,500 kids. My teachers are going to lose out on some of these really amazing
about
tools.
this.
Pardon me?
Wouldn't they go crazy about some of this stuff, right?
Absolutely. And as I'm sharing it, I'm reluctant to like fully post on Instagram because we have massive district following on Instagram, because then my teachers are going to say, what? Wait, we're Google. What are you doing, Mrs. Dabbs? What is that? And they know me as the tech and the art like advocate and guru there. So Shaelynn, long question, but I'm reluctant to share if it's something that's going to cost us like tons of money. So can you let me know?
A couple things, and then I'm actually going to pull Stephen in too, because he probably knows a little bit more about the back end of your makeup for your district. But I think probably the best way to approach it is to find excited teachers who would buy into it. Doesn't have to be an either or, but a both, a yes and. Because Microsoft last year or the year before has now made accessing all Microsoft tools one click with your Google login. So there's no reason anymore. You know what I mean? They have made it so easy for teachers to use Microsoft tools that you can even log in with your Google accounts. But I do know on the back end, and that's where I'm going to pull Stephen in, because he knows more about like the IT and the infrastructure, and he might know. You probably in your size of district already have an Azure Microsoft backbone. So Stephen.
Hey, Lisa, longtime fan, first time caller.
Hey, my friend.
I will. So I know everybody else might think this is super boring, but odds are with whenever anytime you purchase a Microsoft device, you get a Microsoft license. So it'd be worth knowing how many Microsoft licenses you have. But Office 365 is free to schools. And so it's just a matter of somebody signing up. Odds are, if you're a Google district, like many folks have said in here, they use Google and they have both. Because most district backbones for their directory services is Microsoft still. And that's going to give you a tremendous amount of licenses. But even if you didn't have it, you can still sign up on the Office 365 EDU site for free. You might not get some of the more advanced features, advanced storages and some of those things, but everything that Shaelynn has talked about, you would get for free with all of those. And like she said, you'd have that one-click login to Google. It's just a matter of the tech folks arranging it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is there a way, Stephen, you can put a link in the chat, because that would be awesome. And then I guess if you don't mind, I don't want to dominate here, but I do have another quick question. So we are Chromebook based. Okay, so every child in our district has a Chromebook.
Good.
So the functionality for Microsoft tools on a Chromebook is okay. I mean,
Fine. Yep, I use my Chromebook
okay?
all the time. Yep.
Okay, okay, awesome. You guys, this is such exciting news.
Yay!
I cannot
Yeah,
even
you know,
tell
Lisa,
you.
if you need help explaining, Stephen is so much better at explaining those types of infrastructure things because that was his role in the school. I don't know anything about that. I know how to speak to like integration in the classroom because I know both of them, but Stephen definitely is the one to explain that integration.
Well, I will definitely reach out because sometimes I get pushback from my tech director who isn't as savvy, and he's a great guy, but he'll be like, "Well, I don't know, Mrs. Dabbs," and I'm like, "Okay." So thank you, you guys.
Thank
This
you
has
guys
been
so much.
great,
And
Shaelynn.
I forgot to start the video early, so I apologize to everybody. If you were like, I want to share this with people, you'll have a half video. So you'll just have to have me again if this is something useful. Remember, thank you, Patricia, and thank you for everyone for joining us. And Lisa, it's great to see you. And Stephen, thank you. He said don't rope me in, but of course I had to. If these will be on our websites, but you can also, if you need support in any of these areas, you can reach out to Stephen and I, and we will definitely help you in navigating those conversations, or also how to brainstorm and troubleshoot how might that look if we decide to do remote or hybrid, or what might that look like. So have an awesome night, and thank you guys so much. And thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you jumping on, and yeah, enjoy your Friday. Bye, guys.